Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to put on our detective hats and completely decode a core Tagalog grammar concept, Sanhi at Bunga. My absolute goal here is to make sure that even if you're not a native speaker, you'll be able to totally master your upcoming assessments. We're going to do that by really understanding the underlying logic of the language. So let's just dive right in. We're skipping the rote memorization today. Instead, we're going to map English structural parallels directly onto Tagalog, which is basically going to give you the ultimate decoder ring for your exams.
Okay, here is our agenda. First, introduction to cause and effect. Second, Sanhi, decoding the cause. Third, Bunga, decoding the effect. Fourth, synthesizing Sanhi and Bunga. And finally, number 5, test decoder, exam practice.
Let's start with Section 1, Introduction to Cause and Effect. Think of falling dominoes. Proving cause and effect in Tagalog is really all about identifying two distinct things. First, the pinnacle ugat, which translates directly to the root, coming from that base word ugat meaning root, or the actual reason an event happens. Second, you have to identify what the resulting bunga, which literally translates to fruit, or epekto, meaning effect, is going to be. Just like pushing that very first domino inherently forces the rest of them to fall over, identifying the root cause in a Tagalog sentence points us directly to the inevitable outcome.
Moving on to Section 2, Sanhi, decoding the cause.
Whenever you see the word Sanhi on a test, I want you to immediately think of the English word cause. Sanhi is the dahilan, which simply translates to the reason why something happens. It's the catalyst, right? Now, a really common pitfall for students is looking for these super complex contextual clues during an exam. But honestly, the test is usually just asking you to find the dahilan, that basic reason. So the absolute most crucial thing here is to permanently link the word Sanhi directly to dahilan in your mental dictionary.
So, to spot a sanhi in a wild sentence, you need to use your linguistic toolkit. You are hunting for a pangatnig na pananhi, which means causal conjunction. Pangatnig means conjunction, the glue words that hold our sentences together. Your key vocabulary words to memorize here are kasi, dahil, dahil sa, mangyayari, and palibaha. And these translate directly to English words like because, due to, or since. Think of it like this. If you spot the word dahil, which means because, you are looking right at the absolute seed of the sentence.
Let's see this grammar rule in action. Here's our English structural parallel. Mother is going to the village because she will buy food. The rule is that the causal conjunction always introduces the reason. And in Tagalog, it works exactly the same way. Pupunta sa nayan si inay, meaning mother is going to the village, is linked by the pagadnig or conjunction dahil, meaning because. This directly points us to the sanhi, the reason. Bibili siya ng pagkain, meaning she will buy food. Now, a huge trap here is just assuming the first half of the sentence is always the cause. Don't fall for that. Always find the conjunction first. That word dahil is your literal signpost pointing exactly to the sanhi.
All right, Section 3, Bunga, decoding the effect.
Bunga is the Tagalog word for effect, but like I mentioned just a bit earlier, its literal, actual translation is fruit. Just picture a tree. The sanhi is the root deep underground, and the bunga is the fruit it ends up producing. Now, if a test question asks you for the kinalabasan, resulta, or dulot, it is directly asking you for the outcome, the result, or the consequence of an event. Kinalabasan comes from the root word labas, meaning to come out, so it is quite literally what comes out of the situation.
Just like our previous list for the cause, Bunga has its own specific set of conjunctions you absolutely must memorize to crack the code. You're looking out for kung kaya, sa gayon, bunga nito, sa ganitong dahilan, kung, and kapag. These translate to English transitional phrases like which is why, therefore, as a result, if, and when. When you're reading a sentence and it hits one of these words, it's shifting gears from the setup directly to the payoff. It is showing you exactly what the consequence is.
Let's apply our grammar rule one more time with an English parallel. The baby cried all night, which is why Aling Mercedes couldn't sleep well. In Tagalog, that's magna umiyak ang sanggol sa loob ng bahay, meaning the baby cried all night inside the house. Then, boom, we hit our conjunction, our pangatnig, kung kaya, which tells us which is why. This immediately introduces the bunga, the effect. Hindi na katulog ng maayos si Aling Mercedes. Aling Mercedes couldn't sleep well. The pitfall to avoid here is trying to translate every single word and just getting totally lost in the weeds. Instead, just scan the sentence for kung kaya. Once you spot it, you instantly know that everything that follows it is the bunga.
Let's bring it together in Section 4, synthesizing Sanhi and Bunga. Take a quick mental snapshot of this comparison matrix. Honestly, this is your ultimate cheat sheet. On one side, we have your root concepts for Sanhi, the root or reason, which is the pinaka-ugat or dahilan, and the keywords to scan for are dahil, kasi, palibasa. Then, on the other side, we have the outcome, the bunga, the kinalabasan or resulta. Your keywords to scan for here are kung kaya, bunga nito, sagayon. If you simply memorize which bucket these vocabulary words belong to, you're going to be able to decode like 90% of the grammar questions you will ever face on this specific topic. And finally, Section 5, Test Decoder, Exam Practice.
All right, here is our pagsusulit, which translates to quiz or test. Let's scan the first question, reading it in Tagalog first. Alin sa mga sunusunod ang tumutukoy sa kinalabasan, resulta o dulot ng isang pangyayari? Now take a breath. Don't panic if you don't know every single word there. We just need to apply our decoder method.
Look closely at the question stems. We are explicitly looking for our target vocabulary. The phrase asks for the kinalabasan or resulta. Because we know resulta is an easy cognate for result, and kinalabasan means outcome, we automatically know it is definitely not asking for the root cause. See, we don't even need to perfectly translate the whole sentence to know that the test is just asking us to identify the word for effect.
Now let's look at the second question prompt. Tukuyin ang pangatnig na ginamit sa pangungusap pupunta sa nayon si inay dahil bibili siya ng pagkain. The instruction stem here is tukuyin ang pangatnig. Tukuyin means to identify, and we already know pangatnig means conjunction. So it's just instructing you to identify the specific glue word connecting the two sentence halves together. You are quite literally just searching for a connecting word from our vocabulary toolkit.
And here are our mga sagot, our answers. For question 1, because we spotted kinalabasan and resulta, the answer is undeniably B, bunga. And for question 2, by quickly scanning the sentence, pupunta sa nayon si inay dahil bibili siya ng pagkain, we can see the connecting pangatnig that bridges the action to the reason is dahil, indicating the cause. Excellent work! Seriously, if you followed that logic, you are fully prepared to breeze through this section of your assessment.
By mastering these core vocabulary words and really understanding those English structural parallels, you can decode any Tagalog sentence involving cause and effect. It really isn't about memorizing entire dictionary pages, it's just about finding the conjunctions, those handy signposts, and knowing whether they point to the root, the sanhi, or the fruit, the bunga. So I'll leave you with this thought. If language is really just a series of causes and effects, what other hidden, logical patterns are waiting to be decoded in the rest of the Tagalog language? Keep your detective hats on. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and happy studying.